So today I'm talking about the fact that there are some truly valid reasons why people end up being stuck in survival mode. These coping mechanisms are developed during times where we really need them. We need them to be able to survive and get through what we're dealing with, and we can truly be thankful for that. But the problem is, they don't always help us to thrive. So if you feel stuck just surviving, barely getting through the days, and not actually thriving, then this video is for you. I'm Ketra Thompson, and I'm a certified master hypnotist and a life recovery coach. So before we jump into this topic, be sure to hit like and subscribe so that you can be notified every time I put a new video out. And also, there is a link in the description to set up a consultation call that's offered completely complimentary if you are interested in finding out more about how to work with me personally. Your mind and your body is far more amazing than you probably even realize. We're actually created to be highly adaptable in many ways, but we also tend to have a negativity bias. And when we're focused on the negativity, it can really hold you back from the good stuff in life. So once upon a time, we were surviving in the wild. We were having to survive and keep ourselves from being eaten by lions or whatever. And so we have this really cool feature where we can focus in on the negativity. We can remember the negative things. We can remember when bad things happen or where they happened, because initially it was meant to keep us from going back to that same place and having that same bad thing happen over and over again, which is a good thing. But it doesn't serve us well in the day and age that we live now, in the society that we live in. We're not running from wild animals on a regular basis. And so while it is good for us to still pick up on things that are dangerous for us physically, mentally, or emotionally, we want to be cued up to those. We don't want to be so hypersensitive to danger that all we're doing is focusing on the negative. And because we're pre-wired to have this negativity bias, there's a real struggle that can happen. The thing is that in nature, when animals have to run from another animal to keep themselves safe, they actually return back to the state of being calm pretty quickly. They kind of shake it off, they do a physical kind of release of that energy, and they go back to that resting, peaceful, calm state of mind where they're able to be with their herd or their group and feel safe. Humans don't do that so much. The problem is, in humanity, we tend to end up in situations that are just way more chronic and far more of an ongoing issue. So if you're in a family dynamic where you're constantly being neglected or belittled or criticized, you don't really have a way to escape that if you're a child or you have no ability to get free from it. And so as humans, we tend to end up in these chronic, ongoing situations that are full of negativity with no way out. And this can happen on several levels. This chronic, ongoing negative situation or atmosphere can happen because you were stuck in a toxic relationship where they said one thing and they did another, where gaslighting was going on, where there was lies and deceit and manipulation, and one day it was great and the next it wasn't, and it's very confusing. And so it leads to a trauma bond that can keep people stuck in that for longer. You can also end up in a really toxic work life situation. You might have a work office that is so stressful with maybe an employer or a boss that is far too demanding, and it just seems to go on and it becomes a chronic situation. And then of course, we always have childhood trauma. Every one of us has it on some level or another, but for some people it's far worse than others. And it's not always the things that happened to you in childhood, it's also the things that didn't happen, that needed to happen. So ongoing chronic neglect or lack of teachable moments, lack of help regulating your emotions, lack of validation, all the things that don't happen. But it's chronic. Again, it just goes on and on. So humans can end up feeling really stuck in a heightened state of awareness. Just hyper aware, a heightened state of fear, always on alert, and not really able to enjoy the moment. So this means your body is likely working overtime just to keep you safe because it's constantly fearing for your safety. And it could also mean that it's helping to numb you out so that you don't feel your emotions, so it can keep you safe from feeling emotional pain as well. So let's look at how this shows up. The first way that these issues tend to show up in people's life is that hyper alert, that constantly being hyper alert as to what's going on around you because there's an underlying fear or a feeling of not being safe. So for example, if you've been subjected to ongoing narcissistic abuse either in your childhood or your adult life, you might be constantly walking on eggshells. You might always be on edge. You might always be anticipating the reactions of other people because you're not sure what's going to happen and when it's going to happen, and so you're trying to anticipate it so you can keep yourself safe. You can also feel really drained and fatigued because your body is working overtime with this hypervigilance, and then also you might be experiencing a lack of sleep, and so you have sleep disturbances because of this anxiety that's compounding the effects of this fatigue from staying on hyper alert in this hyper vigilant state of mind. The second kind of survival mode that you can get stuck in is the state of emotional shutdown. Now, emotional shutdown can happen especially if you've had childhood trauma, childhood neglect, or abuse where you have had to emotionally shut yourself down so you don't feel the depth of the pain from that neglect or abuse. Being emotionally shut down really causes you to just have an internal numbness. It's numbing you out so that you don't have to feel that stuff. Some common ways that people try to stay numbed out and be, detached from their feelings is sometimes they stay really, really busy, where they're just so busy they don't have time to sit with their feelings. They don't have time to experience their feelings. Many times, these kinds of people can be really big overachievers, in certain areas at least, where they accomplish a lot because they stay so busy because they don't want to sit still with their feelings. And then the other underlying factor that's kind of driving this is that they have a really harsh internal critical voice telling them that it isn't safe to be vulnerable. It isn't safe to be honest. It isn't safe to let their guard down. It isn't safe to share their truth. It isn't safe to let someone else in. And so having this wall is like just having that barrier that creates the numbness, keeping you from experiencing depth in your life. This can show up when people pick fights with someone else on purpose to create distance so that they don't have to be vulnerable and they don't have to have as much closeness as they could have in the relationship. And then it also shows up as them just not showing any emotion at all out of a complete fear of being judged. They just stay really flat and really numbed out. The problem is that while these things are protecting you from pain, they are also protecting you from joy, protecting you from feeling on a deep level that you're actually meant to feel. When you aren't tuned into your own feelings, you're out of integrity with yourself. You're out of alignment with the way that you were meant to be. All of our feelings are there to tell us something. They're sending us a message, and it's our job to tune into that message so that we can give ourselves what we need. We can give ourselves the connection, the vulnerability, the joy, the happy, the fun, the rest, the excitement, all of the things that bring our life into a place of being rounded out in fulfilling ways and truly allowing us to embody joy in our life. And you've probably heard me say it before, but it's worth repeating. Our subconscious mind is formed when we are very young, from birth to 7, sometimes maybe a little longer. And we do add to it throughout the years by kind of having circumstances in life that confirm what we already believe, but it's very much formed in those early years. So we are forming these core beliefs, things we truly deeply believe about ourselves, things we believe about other people, and the way the world works. And so because those are such deep-seated belief systems, they're operating, driving over 95% of everything we think, feel, and do is what our subconscious mind does. And they're operating underneath our level of awareness much of the time. So those negative tapes that get played in the back of our mind, we've been listening to them our whole life. And so it doesn't sound negative, or we're not aware of it because it has become our norm. And then these survival strategies, techniques, coping mechanisms that we had to create to get through whatever was so painful when we were younger, then they become a part of our core belief system as they're incorporated into our subconscious mind, and they get carried into adulthood. But hypnotherapy is the one way that you have access to your subconscious mind, where you can finally go back, see where the root cause is, reframe your core belief around that, and actually create lasting change in your life so that you're not in a constant mental battle over all these negative coping mechanisms and negative tapes playing in the back of your mind, fighting against the life that you want to have. All of this internal subconscious work allows you to finally live in an authentic way, connected to yourself and connected to others. The fact is that humans are not meant to be divorced from their self-worth. They're meant to embody it, to be connected with themselves. When you finally connect with yourself, when you finally feel confident, when you finally are able to have that self-worth that you need, knowing that you are deserving and worthy of love, then you're able to stop being afraid of attachment. Stop being afraid to be vulnerable and open with other people. You don't have to have those walls up or that hypervigilance that keeps you in this constant state of overdrive where you're just barely getting by. You're surviving, but you're not thriving. And there's a big difference. So when you are ready, and I mean really ready, to take charge of your life, to invest in yourself, and to get to the root cause of what's going on, then set up that consultation call. I would love to talk to you and explain further how this works and how we could possibly work together to get you to the place of empowerment in your life so you can let go of those behaviors that aren't serving you and you can have the life that you deserve. Because the truth is, when you change yourself, you change the world. So until next time, curate a life by your own design.